Good morning, evening, night, good day to everyone watching. I hope everyone's well. Warm welcome. I'm going to discuss today something that has been on a lot of people's minds regarding this wonderful information about the Testimonium Flavianum. Um, we're going to have some fun with this today. It's really I don't know whether people think that I'm cheating a little bit using ChatGPT so much. It's just so easy in having an extended conversation over many, many months now to just produce these essays quickly. I've got one here in front of me, the Thomas C. Schmidt, Ken Olson, and the Testimonium Flavianum, a philological reassessment. I think it shows us really well that you can use this kind of this technology now to make these essays extremely quickly and really help us all drill down into such important studies and in such detailed ways as looking at original ancient Greek and doing a kind of versus Ken Olson versus Thomas C. Schmidt and their understanding of philology here and what is in the Testimonium and what actually appears in Josephus, so that we can actually assess properly the likelihood of the Testimonium being Josephine over whether it is, as I say, and many others state as well, it's just a fraudulent testimony. It's one of the big ones in the pagan authorship, in the pagan attestations argument. I'm going to read this today. It's quite small. The authenticity of the Testimonium Flavium, Josephus' supposed reference to Jesus in Antiquities 1833 remains obviously one of the most contested issues in the New Testament studies. Thomas C. Schmidt's recent book, Josephus and Jesus, New Evidence, the one called Christ 2025, you can find it online, it is free, argues that the TF is substantially authentic with only minor Christian interpolations. Hold the front door open. I don't want to... He is a Christian. I thought it was a really strange book, given he's a Harvard, Yale scholar, maybe professor. I'm not too sure about this, but that he's still clawing at this and trying to make it valid in this age that we now live in. This should help us explain why it's still more plausible that it's completely fake. Ken Olson, by contrast, has long maintained that the Testimonium contains phrases alien to Josephus, which it does, but common in Eusebius, again, which they are, suggesting a later Christian hand. This essay will examine Schmidt's claims in the light of Olson's critique, focusing on the actual Greek diction. It will also incorporate other long-standing arguments for interpolation. So, received with pleasure. These are, again, there are about 8 rather obvious Christian interpolations into Josephus's text. Some of them are very obvious. He was the Christ is a good one. That appears in the original. Later on, you'll find references. He is thought to be the Christ, but in Eusebius's copy here, the one that he gives, it is he was the Christ. This is not something that's found in the verbiage here of a Jew who is not a Christian. There are quite a few examples on this. He rose on the 3rd day. Again, it's just a creedal statement from a Christian. But here we go, though. The one here, received with pleasure. Those who receive the truth with pleasure in the Greek Testimonium, parallel in Josephus. So the Testimonium Flavium, the Testimonium in Greek here, we will assume is fake. Parallel in Josephus Antiquities 1724, receiving the words with pleasure. This is the actual Greek. So those who receive the truth with pleasure, that sounds like the truth, as in truth, Christianity, the truth of Christianity. he uses words, Josephus here, receiving the words with pleasure. Again, he's using words here, not a truth like a Christian truth. This is a different way of interpreting this. Analysis. Schmidt highlights this is a strong stylistic parallel. Both employ the construction hedon and dechomai to receive the with pleasure, yet the objects differ. Truths versus words. Okay, the case differs. The cases differ as well. Dative versus accusative. The structural similarity is real, but Schmidt overstates the case when he implies identical diction. Olson is correct that the TF's precise collocation is unique, and its moral theological flavor, truths, is suspiciously Christian. Okay, doer of surprising deeds. So a doer of surprising works in the Greek Testimonium relayed by Josephus. Josephus elsewhere uses a paradoxa erga, surprising works, in reference to biblical miracles. Okay, this is important. He never uses it to mere doer. In Josephus, poetes consistently means poet, however. So he does say surprising works in paradoxa erga in relation to biblical miracles. So it's fair, it's reasonable to assume there's certainly a similarity, but in the word doer here, he's actually saying something different. And it's the specific context here and the usage that Josephus is employing elsewhere in his works that does not relate to this much more Christian way of saying something that is probably likely that Josephus would have expanded on if he knew anything about surprising, amazing, miraculous feats. Schmidt stresses that this Greek phrase appears in Josephus, but Olson's point stands. The whole phrase is anomalous. The shift of poetes to mean performer is not Josephine. This is far more at home in Eusebius, who frequently uses poetes metaphorically. Schmidt therefore dilutes Olson's argument by isolating a single familiar element rather than reckoning with the un-Josephine collocation. Apologies. 3, the tribe of the Christians. This is a good one. The Testimonium says the tribe of the Christians. Josephus elsewhere regularly uses pylon, the same word here, right? Or for ethnic or national groups, the Jewish nation, like this Jewish tribe. However, the analysis here would be, while phylon is certainly Josephine, its attachment to Christians is not. Okay, Josephus never applies phylon to small sectarian groups. And remember, Christians are not a nation or a peoples; they're a sect of many different people. So Olson shows that Eusebius repeatedly uses the exact phrase, this Greek word, I can't pronounce it, to describe Christians. Schmidt argues that Josephus could have extended his tribal terminology by the absence of parallels in Josephus himself is telling. Here again, Schmidt appeals to partial plausibility, while Olson points to the whole expressions for foreignness in Josephus, right? Even to this day in the Greek, right? Josephus here does not employ this idiom. He sometimes uses chronological markers, but never this explicit exact phrase, right? Olson stresses that kai eti seremon is common in Eusebius and absent in Josephus. Schmidt offers little rebuttal here. Okay, preferring to focus on broader stylistic arguments, this omission is significant as the phrase is a hallmark of later Christian historiography. And indeed, if indeed one ought to call him a man, again, a very strange thing for a Jew to say. This is Christian verbiage, no parallel. Parenthetical hedges of this kind are absent. Okay, Eusebius here uses similar I tray constructions in apologetic contexts. This line is entirely uncharacteristic of Josephus, but matches Eusebius' rhetorical habits. Schmidt cannot explain its present without invoking later interpolation. If retained, it signals Christian reverence, not Josephine neutrality, which Josephus employs much when he's writing. He's a good, neutral historian. He doesn't get his emotions involved with what he's talking about that much. Well, beyond Olson's phrase-level critique, broader arguments for interpolation remain. Origen's testimony, again, you can read this. Arguments of silence, from silence. No Christians repeat this at all. The Testimonium for 215 odd years. Variant reversion. Arabic, Argyppus, whatever. And Syriac Michael, the Syrian witness, preserve a more neutral text. This is the later text. He was thought to be a Christ. These support the theory of later embellishments, right? And they do not, and it appears very much, as Alice Wheatley has demonstrated, that even these versions of the Testimonium actually derive from Eusebius's library. Okay, Christian vocabulary terms such as Christ, tribe of Christians, and the hedge about Jesus' humanity reflect Christian theological idiom, not Josephine reportage. And there are so many reasons, again, based off of this, just to throw the damn thing out. It's much more likely that it is fake. It could still be, I mean, there's a tiny possibility it might be completely, it's just completely real, but the odds against that are so huge, so astronomical, that it really bears not thinking about much in further Jesus studies now. I'm going to leave that there. I mean, the conclusion's there if you just want to read it. That's up to you. But yes, he's done a good job, Schmidt. I think it was worth. I mean, I didn't read the whole thing. I read some of it, the important parts. But he also says that Josephus it's a neutral commentary on Jesus. He's being neutral. It's not neutral. It's actually quite positive and reasonable and fair. And he's saying, he might be using sarcasm. Might be being using certain words to make it sound like it's positive when it's not. And this is not really something that Josephus does. He does do this, but he makes it very clear that he doesn't like the people he's talking about. If he does do this, if he's using that kind of sarcasm, he never does in the Testimonium, because it's a very small piece of text. 25 seconds or so to read. When you get the actual core of it down, the stuff that blatantly is acknowledged as an interpolation, then you have even less, about 60 words, 50 or 60 words, when you take away all the obviously bullshit stuff and even this Eusebian stuff. So I just wanted to lay that out there. I'm sorry, I'm not having a very good day today, I'll admit, but I just want to start cracking out videos again. So toodaloo.